5 a.m. winning mindset, wake up before everyone else and change your life. Let me ask you something real. Who are you when nobody is watching? Not when the lights are on, not when people are clapping, but when the alarm goes off and every excuse is whispering, stay comfortable. Because that moment is the moment that defines your life. 5 a.m. isn't about waking up early. It's about deciding who's in control, you or your comfort. Most people live their entire lives reacting. They wake up late, they rush, they scroll, they complain, and then they wonder why life feels out of control. But winners create control before the world wakes up. At 5 a.m., there are no notifications, no opinions, no emergencies, just you and the truth. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. You don't lack time. You lack discipline. When you wake up at 5 a.m., you're telling your brain, I do what I say I'll do, even when it's hard. That builds trust with yourself. And self-trust, that's confidence. That's power. That's identity. See, success isn't built in motivation. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings disappear. Success is built in systems. And waking up early is one of the most powerful systems on earth. Because every morning you win early, you stack proof. Proof that you're not average. Proof that you're not waiting for permission. Proof that you are becoming dangerous in the best way possible. While others are sleeping, you're learning, you're training, you're planning, you're sharpening your edge. And don't misunderstand me, 5 a.m. won't change your life in one day. But do it for 30 days, you'll feel different. Do it for 6 months, you won't recognize yourself because discipline compounds just like interest, just like regret. And here's the final truth, listen closely. The life you want is on the other side of the mornings you're avoiding. Not tomorrow, not next year, tomorrow morning. So when that alarm goes off, don't negotiate, don't debate, don't delay. Get up, win early, and remind yourself, I don't chase success, I build the habits that make success inevitable. Wake up before everyone else, and eventually you'll live where everyone else only dreams. Waking up at 5 a.m. isn't about chasing a number on the clock or trying to look disciplined from the outside. It's about claiming a psychological advantage before the world has a chance to touch you, before messages start demanding your attention, before other people's priorities hijack your focus, before excuses feel reasonable and comfort starts negotiating with your potential. When you wake up early, you step into a space that belongs only to you. That quiet, that stillness, that absence of noise, it sharpens the mind. It allows you to think clearly, to act intentionally, and to decide who you're going to be that day instead of letting the day decide for you. Most people wake up already behind. They open their eyes and immediately react. They scroll, they rush, they respond, and without realizing it, they surrender control. Their mindset becomes defensive instead of offensive. But when you wake up at 5 a.m., you flip that script, you move first, you take the first swing, you win the first battle. And that win, even if no one sees it, changes how you carry yourself for the rest of the day. Confidence doesn't come from hype, it comes from evidence. Every early morning is evidence that you can do hard things on command. There is something powerful about being awake while the world sleeps. It creates a sense of separation from average behavior. You're no longer moving with the crowd, you're moving ahead of it. That separation builds focus. It builds clarity. It builds an internal edge that can't be faked. When distractions are absent, your brain works differently. You're not splitting attention. You're not overwhelmed. You're present, and presence is where high-level thinking lives. Early mornings also strip away excuses. At 5 a.m., there's no one to blame, no meetings, no interruptions, just you and your commitment. And every time you show up anyway, you reinforce a powerful identity, someone who follows through. That identity compounds. It affects how you train, how you work, how you speak, how you lead. You stop seeing discipline as punishment and start seeing it as self-respect. Winning the morning isn't about productivity hacks or miracle routines. It's about mindset positioning. When you win early, pressure feels lighter, challenges feel smaller, and setbacks lose their power. You're already ahead, already proven to yourself that comfort doesn't control you, already locked into a rhythm of intention, clarity, and quiet dominance that most people never experience because they sleep straight through it. Discipline beats motivation every single time because motivation is emotional and emotions are unreliable. You don't control when motivation shows up, but you do control what you do when it doesn't. Most people wait to feel ready, inspired, or excited before they act, and that waiting quietly destroys their potential. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline is a decision made in advance. It's a standard you hold yourself to regardless of mood, energy, or circumstances. When you wake up at 5 a.m. without motivation, you are training yourself to operate on command, not convenience. Motivation feels good, but it lies. It convinces you that action should feel easy, that progress should feel exciting, and that if something feels hard, maybe it's not meant for you. Discipline tells the truth. Discipline says growth is uncomfortable, repetition is boring, and success is built in silence long before it's celebrated. When you choose discipline over motivation, you stop chasing feelings and start building systems. Systems create consistency, and consistency creates results. Early mornings are one of the fastest ways to develop discipline because they remove choice. There is no debate at 5 a.m. You either get up or you don't. And every time you get up without motivation, you strengthen the part of your brain that follows through. You prove to yourself that your actions are not controlled by excuses. That proof changes how you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who tries and start identifying as someone who does. Discipline also creates freedom, even though most people think it's restrictive. When you are disciplined, your life becomes predictable in the best way. You know you'll train even when it's hard. You know you'll work even when it's uncomfortable. You know you won't quit just because it's inconvenient. That certainty removes anxiety. You stop negotiating with yourself all day. You conserve mental energy. You move with confidence because your standards are non-negotiable. Motivation spikes and crashes. Discipline compounds. One disciplined morning turns into a disciplined week. A disciplined week turns into a disciplined year. And over time, discipline reshapes your identity. You become someone who keeps promises to yourself. That self-trust is rare and it's powerful. When life applies pressure, disciplined people don't panic because they've trained under resistance. They've already done hard things without applause. Choosing discipline at 5 a.m. isn't about being extreme. It's about being effective. It's about building a version of yourself that doesn't need perfect conditions to perform. When discipline becomes your default, motivation becomes a bonus instead of a requirement, and your progress stops depending on how you feel and starts depending on who you've decided to be. Who you become is not shaped in public moments or highlight reels. It's built quietly in the hours no one applauds. Identity is formed in private in the decisions you make when there's no audience, no validation, and no immediate reward. Early mornings force you into that private arena. At 5 a.m., there is nowhere to hide and no one to impress. It's just you and the standard you hold yourself to. And every time you meet that standard in silence, you reinforce the person you are becoming. Most people want confidence, but they chase it externally. They want recognition, approval, and visible wins. But real confidence is internal and it's earned. It comes from knowing, without needing to explain, that you do the work even when it would be easier not to. When you wake up early consistently, you collect evidence. Evidence that you are reliable. Evidence that you can be trusted by yourself. That kind of self-respect can't be shaken by opinions or setbacks because it's rooted in action, not words. Early mornings expose your excuses. In the dark and quiet, there's no distraction to hide behind. No one is forcing you. No one is watching. That's exactly why it matters. When you choose to show up anyway, you take ownership of your identity. You stop outsourcing your discipline to external pressure and start generating it internally. That shift changes everything. You no longer need deadlines, threats, or hype to move. You move because it's who you are. Identity isn't built through intensity. It's built through repetition. One early morning won't change you, but hundreds of them will. Each time you wake up and do what you said you would do, you vote for a new version of yourself. Over time, those votes add up. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to change and start seeing yourself as someone who has changed. That internal shift is subtle, but it's permanent. What you do in private also determines how you perform in public. When challenges show up, you don't freeze because you've already trained under resistance. You've already faced discomfort alone. You've already proven that you don't need applause to perform. That's why disciplined people move differently. They're calm under pressure. They're grounded. They don't panic when things get hard because they've built their confidence in the quiet hours where excuses don't survive. An identity is forged through action, not intention. Consistency is the invisible force that separates people who talk from people who transform. Big goals don't require big dramatic actions. They require small actions done relentlessly, especially when they feel insignificant. Early mornings are powerful, not because they are intense, but because they are repeatable. When you wake up at 5 a.m. day after day, you stop chasing breakthroughs and start building momentum. Momentum doesn't announce itself, but it changes everything. Most people overestimate what they can do in one day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They look for instant results and quit when they don't see them. Consistency doesn't reward impatience. It rewards commitment. Each early morning may feel ordinary, even boring, but that boredom is where the compounding begins. Every workout, every page read, every hour of focused work stacks quietly on top of the last. Progress becomes inevitable, not because any single day was extraordinary, but because none of them were skipped. Consistency also removes emotional decision-making. When something is non-negotiable, it no longer drains your willpower. You don't ask yourself if you feel like showing up. You already decided. That decision, made once and honored daily, frees your mind. You stop burning energy on internal debates and direct it toward execution. Over time, this creates rhythm, and rhythm creates flow. Life starts moving forward with less friction because your actions are aligned and automatic. What compounds through consistency isn't just results, it's character. Every early morning strengthens patience, resilience, and trust in the process. You learn to respect slow progress. You learn to stay committed without validation. You learn that growth is not loud. Those lessons shape how you handle setbacks, delays, and pressure. Instead of reacting emotionally, you stay steady because you've trained yourself to think long term. The most powerful changes often go unnoticed at first. Your mindset shifts before your circumstances do. Your habits solidify before your outcomes show. But eventually, the accumulation becomes visible. People call it luck or talent, not realizing they're looking at the result of hundreds of mornings where someone chose to show up when it would have been easier to stay asleep. That's the power of consistency. It turns ordinary discipline into extraordinary transformation without ever needing a single dramatic moment.